All right, welcome back to the Delusional Fan with Geraghty McCloud. I am Chris Geraghty. That is not Ryan McCloud. That is Bucky Badger, known as John Pett, sitting in for Ryan McCloud this week. Remember to follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Also subscribe to our YouTube channel. We love that you guys are watching the show. Make sure you comment on it as much as possible. We love that you guys bring up our top 5. And remember, any rapid fire questions or anything you guys want to talk about, let us know. We'll bring them up here on the show. And you never know, you might even get to appear on the show like one of our fans here, Mr. Pett. Now, John, here's one of the reasons I really wanted you on the show today since Ryan couldn't join us. I want to talk Badger football. You know more about Badger football than most, so I want you to tell everybody who maybe isn't as familiar with what this season's going to bring a little bit about the team. We obviously have a quarterback controversy already.
Yeah.
Is Clement going to stay healthy? Let's see. So go ahead, man. I'm going to leave the floor to you.
The quarterback position is kind of up in the air right now. It's either between Bart Houston or Alex Hornibrook. And Bart is, the experienced leader, senior, and Hornibrook is the freshman. They're both redshirt freshmen, both recruited by Chris. And for that reason, I actually, I don't really, to me, it doesn't matter either way who actually starts the season.
So can I break in on that? So John and I went to the spring game.
Yeah.
You mean your dad went to the spring game. And your dad and I, all we did was bash the quarterbacks until we saw Hornibrook play.
Yeah.
And kind of fell in love. The guy's he's got a pro arm.
He does.
He's got the pro body.
Yeah.
Why is it okay that you wouldn't just throw him in there?
Well,
I mean, that's who I want to see play.
I know you do. And, his arm just quite isn't there, and I still think he needs to learn a few things. Now, the reason I don't mind them just starting out with Houston either is because he's that leader, and he's kind of a gunslinger. He'll just throw it in there. I think either way you go, though, it's going to be okay. What I want is it to be settled right away.
Well,
early in camp.
And
then it doesn't.
So do you think the fact that now Christ is back, that he's going to go back, kind of a little different than Anderson did, and be more of a running team, and the pass will come from the run?
I think so.
So do you think it doesn't really matter who quarterback is?
It might. It really might not. What we need in that type of offense is to be able to hit big plays, because the running game is going to open up the passing game, and that's what we've been lacking over the last few years. Is Stavi couldn't hit those big plays.
No, he couldn't at all.
He couldn't hit those open receivers. There's not a lot of opportunity, and I feel either one of those quarterbacks can do that.
So you think Houston can hit the big play downfield? Because I question his downfield arm, and what I saw Hornibrook do on his first touchdown pass at that spring game, I didn't question it after that. He's got the touch and he's got the ball without looking like he's throwing watermelons out there.
Yeah, and I feel like, it could be a little bit more developed. I feel like some of his passes are kind of a little loopy, like they hang in the air just a little, whereas Houston, it's like a rifle. The ball just flings right off his arm.
He does. I think he overthrows it quite a bit, though,
Probably.
too.
Yeah.
So what, so you have the two different types of passes. You think Hornibrook lays it up too much. You think Houston overthrows it. Do we have the receivers that can compensate for both of them?
Now, that's a big question mark, actually, more than actually the QB, because it's been a while since we've had a decent receiving core. It's been about 4 years since we've had that. At that time we had Nick Toon and the other guy escapes me.
Which really never turned into
Amateurs.
great. Which neither of them have turned into great pros.
No, our receivers don't turn into great pros, but
don't you want that big prototypical monster you can toss it up to? Why can't we find a guy like that?
Because they function well in our system, and we did. Just because you might be a great pro doesn't necessarily make you a great college player.
One usually translates to the other.
Sometimes, but as we'll talk about later, sometimes you can be the greatest college player ever.
So give me a receiver that you think is maybe underrated. Do you think there's anybody that could turn out to be a number one receiver and be maybe a favorite target of either of the quarterbacks?
Well, I think Will Wright is going to be established himself as the primary receiver.
And I like Will Wright. I mean, he didn't really get as much of a chance, I think, under Stabby. I think Stabby, because of his limitations with his arm, I don't know if we ever really got to see what we had.
He didn't progress. He didn't do any reading progressions. He saw Erickson and that's it. That's all he threw to. I also like Jazz Peavy. He's smaller, but he's a little bit more quicker, a little more agile.
So is he going to be more of a slot receiver? Like the Wes Welker?
I think we're going to have a couple of those guys.
Okay.
Because I also like George Rushing. He's very much that way. And I feel like he could emerge because Reggie Love has been in the system now for nearly as long as Stabby was. And he shows flashes at times, but he doesn't actually... He's too inconsistent.
And he isn't taking the next step forward, really.
No. But they do have a tight end in Fumagalli who actually only has 9 fingers.
Is he really?
Yeah.
Okay, so Fumagalli is one of the tight ends. Who is that monster we saw at the spring game?
David Edwards.
Now, what do you know about David Edwards? By the way, if you guys get a chance, go and look at some of the spring game footage. By monster, do you have the stats in this guy? We should look him up if we can.
I think he's about 6'5".
I'll look him up, but tell me what you know about David Edwards.
Well, I just know he is, to me, your prototypical tight end. Freshman, escapes me where he actually came from, off the top of my head. And
here, listen to this. 6'7", 239. The kid is a monster. Hometown is Downers Grove, Illinois.
So
He went to North. So I don't know, man. Can we use this guy? Because they didn't throw to him in the spring game at all.
No, I just think he's too green behind the ears yet. He probably does not block well, and that's the big key for our offense. You know, if you're going to be a running team, you need to.
He was a veer option quarterback. 2,000 yards of offense. So he's an athlete.
He is an athlete. He looks like an athlete.
So if I was to say look out for somebody in the next couple years, I mean, this guy looks like Gronk out there, size-wise.
Yeah, he does.
Just can he be that sort of athletic? I don't know, but
I think he's a year or two away of showing that type of ability.
Hopefully. All right.
Maybe, yeah.
Offensive line was really young last year. Are they going to gel a little bit this year?
Yeah, and this year will be much improved. It'll be closer to what we're actually used to seeing here at Wisconsin. You know, with those big, massive offensive.
Corn-fed mules.
Yeah, and the Chris is getting back into recruiting the state of Wisconsin for offensive linemen. Anderson completely got away from that, and he didn't do any strength training, so our offensive line just deflated. And that was the big problem last year. Not only that, we didn't have any running backs. We didn't really have anyone to block for them anyway. Mm-hmm. So this year it will be much improved, but it'll be a little bit more difficult seeing it with the teams that they're going to probably end up playing.
Okay.
So
I love the Badger defense. You could tell that they were still solid, still had a lot of athletes. I still worry them on the outsides. I never thought they were great on the outside. They were great. The front seven was always good with those guys.
Yeah.
Aranda's gone, which I think is going to hurt maybe more than people realize.
Good.
Because I think he took a bunch of maybe not necessarily, you wouldn't call them underachievers, but he took a bunch of guys that maybe weren't all-stars, and he turned them into a cohesive unit that was top 10 in almost every category throughout the country.
Yeah.
So I think Aranda is going to be. I think losing him is a major factor.
But the guy that they got from USC was just in a bad situation.
Yeah, USC was in a terrible situation.
Get caught up in a bad situation. So I'm actually looking forward to seeing what he's going to be able to do with these guys. And him and Leonard wanted the
Jim Leonard. That's right. He's back now as a coach.
Yeah. And
Season pro.
Yeah. And
Super Bowl with the Ravens, right?
I think you're right on that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, look for them to turn the ball over a lot on defense.
I hope so.
Yeah.
All right. The last thing I want to get into before we move on to our top 5, this is what scares me the most because we have all these questions. We have questions at quarterback.
Yeah.
We have questions whether running back can stay healthy. We have questions whether we have wide receivers that can do the job. We lost our defensive coordinator. Oh, and with those questions and the transition of coaching staffs, we play LSU in Game 1.
Yeah.
We play Michigan State in Game 4, Michigan Game 5, Ohio State Game 6, and the Iowa in Game 7. Can we possibly make a bowl this year? Because the way I'm looking at this, let's say everything plays out the way I think it's going to play out. I have, let's see, 1-1, 2-1, 2-2, 2-3, 2-4, possibly 2-5, and 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we might end up 7-5 this year if we go by what I'm thinking.
Which is pretty realistic, and you only have to win 6 games to make a bowl.
Okay. So we're gonna end up in a crap hole bowl somewhere.
Music City Bowl.
Okay, then tell me this, because again, you're now you're a little bit more optimistic than I am. I don't expect us to beat LSU.
Okay.
Can we beat Michigan State, Michigan, or Ohio State?
We're gonna beat at least one of those teams, especially Ohio State, since that's at home, and actually, Ohio State and Michigan State are both in kind of that rebuilding mode.
Well, Michigan State, I would assume you would have said Michigan State because they lost quarterback, running back. Defense turned over 3 guys on the line. I mean,
Ohio State had 7 guys drafted in the first round.
But it's Ohio State. Ohio State's got guys like Alabama. They got guys waiting around that could start for any other team in the country. Michigan State
True enough.
Isn't as deep as Ohio State.
But both Michigan State and Ohio State are also in the middle when they play Wisconsin of their tough part of the schedule. So they each have teams before and after them that are also additionally tough. So
of the 4 tough games in a row, so Michigan State, Michigan, Ohio State, Iowa. At Michigan State, at Michigan, Ohio State at home, at Iowa. That's a tough 3 out of 4 road trip.
Yeah, and then we got Nebraska at home, who actually, to
I'm
me,
not worried about Nebraska.
is probably the front runner for the conference.
What? Get out of here with that.
Yeah, for the Western Conference.
And then after Nebraska, Northwestern, who beat us last year.
And we never do well against them
No.
down there.
Good coaching staff there, too. Bunch of smart kids.
Yeah.
All right, so we're both agreed. If Badgers go 7-5, you'll be okay with it?
I actually would. I'm optimistic about. I believe the opener is a push game. I really do. And you're looking at me like I'm crazy, but
We got to play Leonard Fournette. You know that, right?
I do. But if you were down there for the debacle the last time down in Houston, there's not a chance this is going to be a home game for the Badgers. It's not supposed to be a home game.
It's a home game for the Badgers.
But it's going to be a home game because those fans are going to make sure, because when you're down in Houston,
Yeah.
it was nothing but LSU.
Right.
Up here, they're coming up here.
No, and I get that.
So that, to me, is kind of sways it one way more than the other. And it's early. If you're going to get those SEC teams, you get them early.
Okay.
And then,
I agree with that.
And then either Ohio State or Michigan State are, to me, and we always beat Nebraska. And Iowa's kind of rebuilding. So you could sneak in some wins there, and all of a sudden now you're 9 or 10 wins.
I'll be happy if we can beat Michigan State at home and Michigan at home, or Michigan State away and Michigan away. I don't expect to beat Ohio State. I don't expect to beat LSU. But if we can take Michigan State and Michigan I'll consider that a successful season. I also want to see Hornibrook play. I wanted Houston last year because I couldn't stand Stavi, but after seeing Hornibrook in the spring game.
Well, you know, the benefit of having Hornibrook start is that you have Houston. They can come in.
Right. All right, so look at the schedule. Give me your prediction. I'm saying 7-5 is my prediction, and then some jackhole bull. What do you think? What's your prediction for the season?
I think 8-4.
8-4. Okay, so we're going to take one of those games we shouldn't win.
Yep.
I like it.
Do.
I like
and
it.
I think they're going to end up either in the Outback Bowl, possibly the Capital One Bowl.
Perfect. All right, folks, you heard it here. Badgers. Let us know what you think about the Wisconsin Badgers. We are all fans here, so let us know. Badger basketball, we're going to come up soon and have a good talk about those guys. They were the underdogs that went way farther than they should have last year, so hopefully they can do that again. Next up, top 5. I won't spoil the surprise, but you're going to like it. It is college football oriented, so top 5 next, and then we have rapid fire. John, anything else about Badger football before we go?
You Illinois fans, if you ever get an opportunity, go up to Camp Randall.
Because Champaign is a crap hole. All right, we'll be right back.